We are getting ready to go through more of our AFC West rankings today. Hit the offense yesterday. Today we're doing the defense. Where does Maxx Crosby lead the Raiders in terms of the defensive line? Pat Surtain, is he enough for the Broncos to have the best cornerbacks in the AFC West? We're breaking all of that down today, and we're going to start in 30 seconds. Welcome into the DNVR Broncos Podcast. This is the Toyota Lounge right here. I'm so used to that's how you used to start the Buffs pod back in the day. But then there was a presenting sponsor. So it was the DNVR Buffs Podcast presented by then something. And my brain just froze because I was like, presented by, I was like, wait, no, we don't do that anymore. Just the Toyota Lounge. So that's cool.
It is cool.
Yeah.
And we are in the Toyota Lounge.
We are.
What is it, Thursday?
Thursday.
The week is going by pretty fast.
Yeah.
And so I'm excited to get into what we got going. I got a big golf kind of tourney going on this week.
Oh, really? Oh,
Thursday,
that's right.
Friday, Saturday, and Monday.
No Sunday.
No Sunday. Yeah.
That's weird to take one off.
Well, yeah, 3 days in a row with one group, and then it's a charity event on Sunday.
Oh,
so
okay.
it's just golf all the way around.
Is that the one with all your high school friends?
Yep.
That's crazy.
So it's going to be fun.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, like I said before in the cold open, we're doing our defensive rankings today. And I think this one might be a little bit tougher. It felt like a lot of those yesterday were pretty clear cut. But I feel like we should start with the kind of the most important group probably. Let's separate. I was kind of torn how to do this. Let's just call it defensive line. Because it's strange. Yeah, defensive line. We'll do defensive line and linebackers. It's tough whether you like separate the edge rushers out, but at the same time, it feels weird to like rank defensive lines and ignore Maxx Crosby for the Raiders, you know?
Yeah. I think we should include the outside linebackers,
Yeah.
quote unquote, in the defensive line.
Let's do that. So let's start with the Raiders. They obviously have Maxx Crosby, who to me is one of like the 3 best pass rushers in the NFL at this point. Puts up some crazy numbers. Always got double teamed. I think that now that they have Christian Wilkins, I think anything's on the table for Maxx Crosby. Like, I'm not sure what the DraftKings odds are or the Bet365 odds or anything like that, but like 15 sacks, 17 sacks, I think it's all on the table.
Yeah, I think Wilkins is a crazy piece to have when you have a dominant player like Maxx Crosby. And Wilkins is known as being another like tough, hard-nosed, sometimes a little dirty player. I think he fits right into the Raiders kind of mantra and who they are as a team. So I think they'll kind of gel together. And I mean, when you put those two together on the same side, and you got to choose which one you're going to double. You can't double everybody. I think it's going to lead to Maxx Crosby having, even more production. He's super productive now, but I definitely think that a great interior D lineman, which he's about to add to the team, is going to definitely help him out a lot.
Yeah, and I mean, I'd forgotten about the dirty part with Christian Wilkins. Yeah, it's part of why he's such a great fit with the Raiders. But I remember when the Broncos played the Dolphins last year. I know a lot of people have found a way to forget that one. But I mean, it was a discussion going into that game among the offensive linemen. Like, this is what this guy does, and we can't. If he pulls anything at the bottom of the pile, we need to handle this. And I snuck into that conversation to be like, wait, who are you guys talking about? But yeah, it was Christian Wilkins because he has a reputation to like twist some ankles and do those sorts of things. You ever involved in any of that bottom of the pile shenanigans?
No, I try not to be at the bottom of the pile. I try to be at the top of the pile.
That makes sense.
But no, I wasn't really like a dirty player. I want to hit you when it counts. I don't really want to. I'm not in there, you know what I'm saying, poking out eyes and punching balls. Like,
yeah.
It's not my thing.
Did the offensive guys ever do that?
On my team? Or are you just talking about the guys I played?
That you played.
Oh, yeah. The offense is always dirty. That's just who they are most of the time.
Okay. So, I mean, Raiders' defensive line has to be better than the Broncos. I don't think there's much of an argument the other way. Should say John Jenkins, also a defensive tackle. Malcolm Kuntz at defensive end. Another tough one, though, the Chiefs with Chris Jones in the middle, who is still the best defensive lineman in the division, right?
In the NFL.
In the NFL? Okay.
Now that Aaron Donald's gone, I think he's the best in the NFL.
That's probably right. It's tough, though. Like, Maxx Crosby's good.
Yeah, but, well, I guess when you say defensive lineman,
yeah.
But still, I think Chris Jones would be better than Maxx Crosby.
He's
and
got
just the production that he has from the position he does it at, I think it's just a little bit easier to do it on the end versus, up the middle a little bit more.
Yeah. It's also crazy he's still only 29. Like, he feels like he's been playing forever. Like, he feels like he should be 35. But really, like, you don't even expect a drop-off at this point. Like, he's still just mid-career rolling.
Yeah.
Scary. Next to him, you've got Derek Nottie in the middle. The edge rushers, Mike Dana and George Karlaftis, who I get really torn between thinking that these are really good, underrated players, and also thinking like, well, does playing for the Chiefs just make everybody look a little bit better? And it's different on defense because you don't have Mahomes out there, but like, well, you do have Chris Jones right next to you who's drawing double teams and help, all that sort of stuff. It opens things up a little bit. And it's not like either of them have crazy production, but they both are. I mean, would you rather have George Karlaftis and Mike Dana or, say, Baron Browning and Nick Benito just for this year? They're a little bit different style of player, which makes it tough.
It feels like that's kind of like very similar.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I think you go with either one of those groups. We just talk about those two players versus two players. It is tough playing with a superstar, though. I mean, like, kind of like understanding who they are as players and how good they are. But I've seen guys play with superstars and then leave and be just as good. I've seen guys play with superstars and leave and be not so good. So these guys, I feel like they're solid players. I wouldn't say that they're superstars in their own right or that they could really hold their own and be kind of a person you have to double team every play or somebody you need to like shift the O-line or slide the O-line to. But they're solid players.
Yeah. That's the tough part. Like, it kind of reminds me of like a Bradley Roby, who he's he is a starting NFL cornerback. Or he was. He's still around, right? I think he's still playing, but he was like a starting NFL cornerback. But you put him in that defense, the Broncos defense, and all of a sudden he looks like a superhero just like everybody else out there. Just strange how that works. Let's see. So Raiders or Chiefs? I'm still going Raiders number one past the Chiefs. Do you have any complaints?
Ooh.
Chris Jones is the best player.
Yeah, he's by far the best player. But now we're talking about the tandem of Maxx Crosby and Wilkins.
Yeah. Should say the Chiefs also have Charles Omenihu, Mike Pennell. I guess Omenihu's the one guy off the bench who he's a real player.
That's tough. That Chiefs D-line is pretty nasty. But we can say the Raiders. I'm cool with that.
And then Chiefs probably in front of the Broncos. I mean, the case for the Broncos is that, first of all, they go 5-man front and step forward, which is a little bit different. But DJ Jones, Zach Allen, John Franklin Myers, you don't have a Christian Wilkins or a Chris Jones in there, but you do have three really solid players. The edge rusher is a bunch of options, but it's the depth of the defensive line with Matt Henningsen, Angelo Blackson, Malcolm Roach. I think you still have to go with the Chiefs.
Yeah.
But if Chris Jones misses a game, the Broncos jump away in front of him, in my mind.
I don't know if this is close yet.
Yeah.
I think we're still building. I think we have talented players, but as far as better than the Chiefs D-line right now, I think Chris Jones is just too much of a monster, and he weighs too heavily in their favor. Excuse me, to have us above him right now.
Yeah. That's probably right. Last group, Chargers. Joey Bosa is the big name there. Khalil Mack's still there. Tito Agbanaya, Poona Ford, Morgan Fox, like a bunch of solid players, but nothing crazy on the inside. It's really just the two edge rushers. Also, Bud Dupree at edge rusher. Hadn't thought about him in a while. He had that one great season with the Falcons, I think, a few years ago. But he'd be getting up there now.
Yeah. They all are getting up there now.
They are.
And they all are kind of like, I'll say past their prime, but they still flash. Like Khalil Mack will have a game.
Yeah.
Bosa will
It's
have
like
a game.
6 sacks in that game last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Also, shout out Michael Schofield. Back-to-back days.
yeah, no, I think they're good. I think they're a little bit past their prime, so I can't call them elite. And the question now is, are two superstars past their prime better than two younger guys that are coming into their prime?
The thing is, I think Maxx Crosby is better than Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa at this point. And that's why, like, Christian Wilkins, maybe not on that level, maybe on that level. I mean, like, he's not too far off. But I think just having a guy who could realistically go get you, like I said, like, I would be surprised if he winds up with 15, 17 sacks, something like that, because that's just the point that he's gotten to in his career. What was it? It was 14 and a half last year, 12 and a half the year before. Like, he's on that pace. I would take the Raiders, I think. I wonder, I haven't looked up Joey Bosa's numbers, though. Yeah, because he was hurt the last couple years, 6.5 last year, 2.5 the year before. Like, it's been a minute since he has had, like, a great season. Yeah, 14 total games over the last 2 years. But, I mean, if we're saying right now they're healthy, and if the Rankings are as of today, I guess there's a case to be made.
Well, no, we've been judging everybody else off like what you've done lately, not just
True.
Who you were 2 or 3 years ago. And talk about 6 sacks. That's more than that's less than what most of our guys put up. So I'm going to put the Broncos above them just because
I like it.
The name is great and you have been successful, but for the last 2 years, it is what it is.
I like it. Cool. Raiders 1, Chiefs 2, and then we go Broncos, Chargers. That's going to make, well, there aren't any Chargers fans, but if there were, it'd make them mad. Cool. Real quick, before we move on, got to give a shout out to some of our friends, including our friends over at Circus Sportsbook. Oh, we love Circus Sportsbook. We spent a lot of time out there. We had those back-to-back trips in January and then again in February. Circa's just the best. They've got, that Sportsbook is insane. Like, I guess right now I only have, like, my one big TV set up, but I used to have a few TVs set up. And that's why I never wanted to watch sports really anywhere but my house. But then you go Circa with all the TVs and they're massive. It's a pretty incredible place. And you can make your bets even if you're not there through the Circa Sportsbook. They have a pretty cool system. Instead of doing a bunch of promotions and that sort of thing, they just give you better odds and say, like, that's really what people want, is to make more money when they bet. They try to get everything to minus 110 on either side, which is a great line. And if you want to check it out for yourself, you can download the app at circasports.com. Circa Sports bets can only be made while physically located in the state of Colorado. Must be 21 or older. All rights reserved. Circa Sports Colorado encourages you to gamble responsibly. Gambling problem? Call or text 1-800-GAMBLER or visit problemgamblingcolorado.org.
And shout out to our friends over at Red Hawk Roofing. I think you guys know that we love Red Hawk Roofing here, and it's the most important piece of your house. A house with no roof is just 4 walls.
So true.
Maybe you just have a couple more walls, but
yeah, that is an interesting question. Yeah, you do need the roof. Like, I'd much rather not have one of the walls.
Yeah, and have a roof.
Yeah. It'd be a little breezy, but that you don't get rained on.
Yeah. Well, check out Red Hawk Roofing. They are the best roofers in Denver, and they have joined the DNVR team. They use quality materials. They have decades of experience, quick response time. They have Colorado's best estimators and contractors. They have a free no-obligation roof and property inspection, free in-depth photo reports for all inspections. And this is actually something I need right now. Just moved.
That's
I need
right.
to make sure that my roof is all good, and so I don't have any water coming through.
Yeah.
Protected from the hailstorms that we've had over the course of this year. So I'm definitely going to give Red Hawk Roofing a try. And supporting your local teams also means supporting local businesses like Red Hawk Roofing. If you're looking for a new roof over your home or business, be sure to check out Red Hawk Roofing at redhawkroofing.com or call 720-771-8921 and tell them DNVR sent you.
Perfect. All right. Let's get to the linebackers. This is your area of expertise. This is an interesting one because I feel like sometimes people have a tough time saying which linebackers are good and which ones aren't.
Uh-huh.
Like, there's the few at the top who you're like, oh, yeah, Bobby Wagner, he's incredible. And there's a few who get burned a lot or out of position, and it's really obvious, and you're like, they're bad. But there's a really big group in the middle, I think, when it comes to linebackers. So I'm curious to see where you think these guys will shake out. Broncos, obviously, Alex Singleton, Cody Barton, Jonas Griffith. You'd imagine that those, in some combination, will be the three. Go to the Raiders next. It's a weird one with Robert Spillane, veteran, former Pittsburgh linebacker, Divine Diablo, who is one of those like freak athletes. I think he's like, I'll probably tell me, but like 6'3", runs like a 4.4, wasn't overproductive and very like linear player, not much of like a sideline to sideline type, but just kind of undersized. And personally, I like him in Madden. I don't know that I would actually want him starting for a defense. Behind them, they go get, Tommy Eichenberg out of Notre Dame in the 5th round. Wouldn't imagine he plays. To me, that's not a good group at all.
Yeah, I think it's a fire name, Divine Diablo.
That is a fire name.
But I don't know if they're like an elite bunch.
Yeah.
They do have playing experience, and they have been starters in the league. But I wouldn't say that they were better than the guys that we have currently on our roster. So I would say that they're definitely behind us right now.
Yeah, I think so too. And really, it's Alex giving you the edge.
Yeah.
Like, that's what stands out. The Chiefs, there we go. Nick Bolton, one of the better linebackers in the league at this point. Drew Tranquill, who they signed from the Chargers, and he played really well last year. And Leo Chenal, who kind of like, I don't know if you call it like a breakout, but played really well. To me, this is a pretty good group. Like, you just have, like, you got your veteran, you got your young guy, and you've got just somebody who looks like he's going to be a Pro Bowler at least a few times in Nick Bolton.
Yeah, Nick Bolton, I think, was surprising for me, like, watching the Chiefs film. And, like, from his rookie season on, he's definitely been a pretty good player throughout his whole career, and he just keeps getting better. And you pair him with Chris Jones right in front of him. I mean, he finds ways to make plays. And when he gets the ball, he's effective, whether it's creating fumbles.
Yep.
He'll get a pick every now and then. I think he's a pretty solid player. So, and then Tranquill's good too.
He is.
I think he's better at the Chiefs than he even was at the
Definitely.
Chargers. He just fits their scheme a little bit better. But it all worked out for them. So
yeah, I don't know why
group.
that is either. Like, kind of surprised me because I remember when the Chiefs signed him, thinking like, oh, this is the Chiefs. Because last year was supposed to be the big step back. Like, they lose all those guys. They aren't able to replace them. You see Drew Tranquill come in. You're like, if they're playing Drew Tranquill, that's a good sign for the Broncos. But then he turned out to be a very good player for them. And so it just, like, I don't know enough about the Chargers defense to know, like, why exactly that happened. But it was really surprising to me. Yeah,
well, their defensive coordinator is a really good defensive coordinator, and he's been doing it for a long time.
True.
And I think he's sort of like, I would say, it's weird to say like Sean Payton-esque, but on the defensive side of the ball, because he allows guys to do what they're best at. And you get times where you're not necessarily a good cover linebacker, but because this defense says you have to cover, you're going to cover. And I think that Spags does a good job of kind of rotating responsibilities based on what his players are good at. And I think he just found a way to utilize Tranquill for what he's best at.
Yep.
And it's good.
He's especially good at that at the end of the year, too. Like, it just seems like it builds and builds and builds. And all of a sudden, by the end of the year, they have this defense that, like, it's unique because they're using all the players in different ways, the way that they're supposed to be used. But you just, week one, it just seems more vanilla, and they slowly get there. And by the end of the year, you've got one that can, like, go win playoff games, go win big games in December. So, yeah. Also, Nick Bolton, I remember on the draft podcast, because he was a second-round pick in 2021. I can't remember, I think Dre might have hated him. Maybe Jake hated him because he's just not very fast, or at least didn't test super fast, but he kind of had vibes of like a college football linebacker. Like you plug things up the middle, go hit him. But that's sometimes what you need, and it turns out he has plenty of athleticism to go make plays too, so he'll give you the tackle for loss. He knows where to be in coverage, which, he ran like a 4.6 instead of a 4.5. Like, if you're heading in the right direction quickly enough, it doesn't even matter.
Yeah, if you're smart, I think you can make up for speed, and I think I love his physicality. Like some linebackers don't like to hit. Some linebackers are soft. Some linebackers chop your legs out from underneath you. I think Nick Bolton is a linebacker after my own heart, where I'm gonna come hit you in the mouth and see how it goes. So yeah, I like his game.
All right, Chiefs number 1 so far for Raiders and Broncos.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Chargers have a fun group. First of all, they have Denzel Perryman, who I'm going to see how old he is because it feels like he's been around for forever.
Yeah.
Only 31.
He feels older than that.
He does. I always thought he's older than you. Interesting. But, I mean, that's like a solid veteran, maybe not the most versatile, but you pair...
Wasn't he at the Raiders last year or 2 years ago?
Was that last year? He was at some point, yeah. It might have been 2 years ago. I can't remember. But they pair him with Junior Colson, the Michigan linebacker who they drafted in the 3rd round. He was like a crazy story. I think he's still only like 21. He's Haitian, I think. And a lot of his family died in the hurricane that happened down there, when he would have been like 8 or 10 or whatever that was. So he got adopted by a family in the United States, started playing football, and is just like a freak. And I'm not sure if he's going to be ready to be a great player right away, but I wouldn't be surprised. Like, just given the athleticism, given what he did at Michigan, like he was the middle of that national championship defense last year. Long term, I think the Chargers got a really good player. And I think pairing him with a Denzel Perryman makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I like Perryman. I think he has like limitations in his game. I think coverage, you know what I'm saying? I think he's very good in the run game. I think coverage, not so much. And the other guy's a rookie, so we have to see what he's going to do. Even though he did have good production in college, it's always a little bit of a transition once you get to the NFL. So I would still probably put them 3rd in the division.
Yeah, I think so.
Just for that reason, because of Perriman's limitations, and then a young rookie. And I think the Broncos are just, with Alex Singleton, like, he gets overlooked as far as accolades, but, I mean, the guy's all over the field all game long. And then Barton has his limitations in the run game, I think, but I think he's still more of a solid player right now. And he found a way to be a starter and be successful. And so I think them two together, we have to see how they play off of each other. Because I think that was a good thing about Josie and Singleton, that they found the way to work with each other. They knew each other's vibe.
And they did it like immediately.
Yeah, it was great. And they worked well together. So we'll see how it works. But I think there could be some good play there. Because it's funny because I think Josie was a little bit more downhill than Barton is.
Definitely.
And so it worked well with what Alex does side to side.
Yep.
So I just have to see if they're going to have Barton or Griffith, Jonas Griffith start. Yep. Because Jonas is more downhill, which like pairs really well with the way that Alex plays. So
yeah,
we'll see how that goes.
And it really does change your defense because like when I think of the old Saints defenses, like they had some good linebackers, but it felt like, and maybe this is just the NFC as a whole at the time, they were more worried about the coverage. Like if you run for 4 yards per carry, 4.5 yards per carry, like we don't love that, but we'll live with it. Like we're gonna have good corners, we're gonna have good safeties, we're gonna make sure linebackers are like solid in coverage. It just changes the whole identity of how you play when you look at things like that. Whereas if you have like a Josie Jewell who's taking away one more gap up the middle really well, then all of a sudden you're kind of squeezing that running game out and kind of daring the quarterback to make plays, it feels like.
Yeah, I think the AFC West was definitely a pass heavy division, but over time I think the running backs just continue to stay good, and you had to be aware and ready, to make those plays too. Like Austin Eckler is great out the backfield, but he was a very good runner. Isaiah Pacheco, Jamal Charles. The Raiders have had a plethora of good running backs, from Marshawn Lynch to Josh Jacobs. Right. I mean, you can try to just, be pass heavy if you want, and then you get smacked in the mouth. Like, we're not necessarily like a run first division like Pittsburgh and the Ravens are, but you do have to be very cautious and able to play the run, because if you don't, there are good enough running backs to run all over you in our division.
Yeah. Let's wrap this up by just doing full front seven rankings, Because I think it's kind of fun to think about like how they all play together. Like, it's one thing we can say, like Divine Diablo, I don't think he's a great like just downhill plugger. He's also playing behind Christian Wilkins, which makes things a little bit easier because teams aren't going to want to go with those A gaps anyway. So I mean, start with the Chiefs. I mean, Chiefs probably. I mean, they definitely have the better front seven of the Broncos. They beat them offensive line. They beat them in the linebackers. The Raiders, I think that's a little bit tougher. I think I still give the edge to the Raiders just because when you have, again, like Maxx Crosby, Christian Wilkins, those are probably the two best talents that either team has in the front seven. But the Broncos beat them with the depth. They beat them with the seventh man in that front seven, you know? So
yeah, I would say the Broncos probably win this one for me.
Okay.
Over the if we're going front seven, over the Raiders, I think the Broncos have that just because they have really too deep of guys that can start and have started in the NFL in the front seven. Linebackers are probably like 1.5 deep, but the linebackers are better for the Broncos, and then just that rotation I think is a lot better for the Broncos. So overall, for the entire unit, I would say the Broncos probably have the second best front seven in the AFC West. And
then the Chargers, that I just don't know where to put them. Like there's so many unknowns. Khalil Mack, Joey Bosa, Junior Colson. What are you getting out of any of those guys? Like I think all three could be Pro Bowlers. I think all three, like the two old guys could be washed and the rookie could not be ready. So I don't know where I put them.
I would put them last.
I think okay.
I mean, Khalil Mack is probably their best pass rusher, and he's just older and not himself. He's still a very talented player. Bosa hasn't produced in 2 years. You got a rookie. You got Perriman, who has been solid, but has limitations. So I think overall I'll probably put them last because, like you talked about the Raiders with Maxx Crosby and Wilkins, I think it makes up for a little bit of what the linebackers are lacking there. So, yeah. Awesome.
Want to give a shout out to our friends at Shady Rays. I said this a couple weeks ago, but the last day of spring practices, I got up to the building and parked and got in my car. My sunscreen, I always just leave all that stuff in the back of my car. So I get out, put on my sunscreen. I take my hat off and put it on top of my car, put my sunglasses on top of the car, like my coffee I was drinking on top of the car, put the sunscreen on, and then get ready and walk out and realize I'd forgotten my sunglasses. And when I got back to my car, they were gone. But luckily...
Somebody stole them?
Or the wind blew them, or... The people don't really steal things from that parking lot. That's a very safe parking lot, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
If there's a parking lot down here, they're good sunglasses. I would steal them. But yeah, it's Shady Rays, so you don't even have to worry about it because of their lost or broken replacements. If they go missing, if there's an unexpected hit, you could just let them know, and they'll exchange you for a new pair. And if you just don't like them, you can do that within 30 days also. So exclusively for our listeners, you can get some awesome sunglasses, polarized, 300,000 5-star reviews, really great sunglasses. If you go to shadyrays.com and use the code DNVR, you'll get 35% off all polarized sunglasses. You can try the shades. They're rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people.
And shout out to Vestibule. If you've ever thought about investing in your favorite players, you can do so now. And all investing is just betting with longer odds. If you think about it.
Yeah.
It's the same thing you do every week on the sportsbook, just
it's true.
Longer odds and hope for like a bigger return.
Yep.
But right now you can invest in Baron Browning's IPO. He's of course our outside linebacker. We think he's a great player, and we think he's actually posed to probably have a big contract next year. So if you're looking to get in and invest in him and feel like he's going to be a great player, you can do so now. His IPO is live right now, and shares are available for purchase. I think it's really cool that they're doing this, and he's doing it. We talked to him at the Healthy Swings event, and he's really excited about people investing in him. And I think that gives you a little bit more pressure. I think it makes it a little bit more fun because you know that you're playing with the thought of making more money for yourself, but you also help others people make money. So he's really excited, and we hope you guys are too. The shares are limited, so go download the Vestibule app now and invest.
All right. Let's do cornerbacks next. I'm curious to see where the Broncos fall. They obviously have the best cornerback in the division. But
Riley Moss?
Yeah, Riley Moss. But then the other spots are a little bit more questionable. So we'll look at Kansas City first. They lose the guy who went to Tennessee. I'm blanking on his name. They traded him. It's like not the sign and trade. What is his name? The L'Jarius Sneed. There we go. L'Jarius Sneed. And now projected starters: Trent McDuffie, good young player. Najee Johnson. I don't know much about him. 7th round pick in 2022. Shamari Connor, who is a 4th round pick in 2023. I don't know many of the backups either. Josh Williams, Jalen Watson, Nick Jones. I don't know what they're doing here. Like, it seems like they need to make a move. Like, I do like Trent McDuffie, but two guys who I couldn't have named before this are the other starters.
Yeah, it's definitely a different lineup. I think Sneed and McDuffie were the best in the division before they traded him. And every time I see Sneed, I always think of the Lorax. Have you seen that?
No.
You don't remember that? Yeah, the Lorax. You never seen that movie?
No.
Where it's like Dr. Seuss and like they're cutting all the trees.
I know what it is.
And they're making Sneeds. Which is
no way.
Yeah, they're making
They're
Sneeds,
making
which is like a
Sneeds.
sweater made of like a fluffy tree.
Wow. Yeah,
Every time I
it
see his name, I think of that.
came out in 2012, so I would have been 15. I don't
too
feel bad
old
about
for it?
missing that. I think so.
Yeah.
Right? Too old for it?
No.
No.
But the book was out before the movie. You know, Dr. Seuss?
Yeah.
You go home and watch the movie.
Okay. Not to
It's-
read the book. Movie's
You
better?
can read the book. The book is just a short movie.
Okay.
No, but that's what I always think about with him. So I think they're gonna fall below the Broncos for sure. Losing Snead, I think they're gonna have a little bit of a fallback. Don't know much about the young players and how good they are, but he was, the way he played last year was probably top 5.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
good player.
Broncos better, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that one's pretty easy, which is nice because with L'Jarius Sneed, it would have been a lot tougher. The Raiders now, this is a crazy group. So you start with Jacorian Bennett, who he was out of Maryland. He ran like a 4.29, just one of those speedy little guys. I don't know. I don't even remember seeing him play at all last year as a rookie. But I would imagine if things went better for him, we would have heard. But he's still out there, former 4th round pick. Jack Jones, who came over from New England, and he was playing really well in the slot. This says they're going to have him play outside, but with I think as a rookie with the Patriots, he was making plays. Like, he looked like they'd found somebody late. But then there was a bunch of off-field stuff. I think he brought like a gun to an airport or something like that. They waived him. Raiders picked him up, classic Raider form, and he played pretty well. And they've got Nate Hobbs, who also has turned into a pretty solid young player. So, I don't know. I could see this going really well for them. I could also see it blowing up in their face.
Yeah. I
You don't
hope
see
it
it?
blows up.
Yeah, I think we all do.
Yeah. No, I think they have a couple solid guys. No superstars,
Yep.
but guys that can, play different positions, which makes them versatile, which always is scary. You know what I'm saying? So I think that they'll be a solid group. I probably, just at this point, would probably put them still below the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Just because of the Chiefs' success last year and being able to translate that. I know they lost Snead, and I know it's a big loss, but I'll probably still put them above the Raiders. And ultimately, I say the Broncos are probably first still right now.
I think so too.
Talk about Pat Surtain, talk about J-Mac, you talking about the third corners where we're like,
Yeah. But again, like,
it gets
Levi
hot.
Wallace would start for the Raiders, Like,
What,
Riley.
do you think so?
I think so. I think so. He would definitely start for the Chiefs. I'm more confident in that.
Okay.
Mostly because, Najee Johnson, I don't know who that is.
But just because you don't know him doesn't mean he's not nice. I'm sure guys looked at the starting roster
True.
2016, was like, Todd Davis, who is he? And then,
That's
you know
true.
what I'm saying?
And we saw what happened. Yeah.
So I can't say that he's not nice just because we don't know exactly who he is.
What if they have two guys who I don't know who they are? Because that's the thing is, like, I know who a lot of these guys are.
Yeah.
2022 7th round pick, 2023 4th round pick. Hopefully they suck. Maybe they won't. We'll see. We can get to the Chargers, the last group, with probably the second best cornerback in the division in Asante Samuel Jr. Refuses to tackle, but that's not really his job. They bring in Christian Fulton, who was a first-round pick in Tennessee. Maybe I think he slipped to the second round. Pick him up, which actually was that this year or last year? It might have been last year. And then Jasir Taylor as the nickel. I mean, the Broncos are better. I'm confident in that because I'd take Pat over Asante Samuel Jr. and I'd take Jaquan over their slot and Christian Fulton or Riley Moss or any of those guys. Maybe you give Fulton the edge, but not by enough to make up the other ground.
Yeah, I agree. So we got to think about this ranking because there's so many pieces to this. So we have Broncos up top.
Yep.
Broncos. Is it Broncos, Chiefs, Chargers, Raiders?
I think you could put those three in any order.
Okay. As long as we're the best, we don't really care about
exactly
the rest of the division.
Yeah. Let's go Chiefs. Let's go Chiefs, Chargers, Raiders. Chargers have Asante Samuel. You at least have that one. Like, he'll lock somebody up as long as he's not tall. But safeties. Let's hit those next. Broncos, interesting spot. I actually mentioned this before the show. But one of the things you were talking about with Justin Simmons was that when I brought up, what did I bring up? The Ravens, was it the Ravens defense? Steelers defense. That's what it was. When I brought up the Steelers defense, you're like, yeah, but that's one where it's like the zone blitz. Like, you got to get into the backfield. You got to hit people. Like, that might not be exactly what Justin Simmons wants. The more I've thought about that, the more I've thought that it makes sense for the Broncos to bring in a Brandon Jones who, like, if you were just to ask a Dolphins fan, like, what are you getting Brandon Jones? They'll say he's the best blitzing safety in the league. And, you know, hometown fans sometimes overrate players. He's probably not the best blitzing safety in the league, but that's the one thing he does really well. And the Broncos also think he can play over the top. And I think that despite him playing limited snaps when he was on the field, he was able to do that well. And now all of a sudden you do have two of those versatile guys. So you can send the blitz with PJ Locke. You can send it with Brandon Jones. You can send it with Jaquan. Like, you've kind of built this out in a way where you've got a bunch of guys who can get into the backfield, which could be a lot of fun as long as Vance Joseph isn't forced to call a super conservative defense because things aren't going well.
Yes, we definitely have a lot of guys that can blitz, and I think it's great.
Yeah.
But I do think that's everybody's strength, which is different.
It is different.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Everybody's best at blitzing.
Yep.
And I don't think anybody's best at playing in space.
Yeah.
So it'll be different. And, you know, if we're great blitzers, then hopefully they don't have to, you know, hold the ball for more than 3 or 4 seconds because we're getting home. So I think Vance is now able to be creative. I love, like, you know, that third down, you know, line 7 guys up on the line. You don't know who's blitzing. You know, I think we have a lot of guys that can blitz in those scenarios. And in those scenarios, like, my pop-out drop is very shallow anyway. I'm not looking to get, you know, 15 to 20 yards deep down the middle of the field in between the hashes and play all the deep balls. I'm like, I'm right here. I'm playing maybe like a curl flat technique or something low and shallow, so it's a lot easier. So I'm very interested to see how they use these guys. And also, like, who's guarding the tight end one-on-one?
That's the big question.
Like, I think PJ could do it.
Yep.
I don't know if I've seen Brandon Jones do it as much on his tape. It's more blitzing, and then he plays the middle of the field just a little bit. The Broncos right now, although I think these two guys are really good, we don't have a safety that has been a starter. We have safeties that have started on and off, but this will be the first year for both these guys where they'll be the starter, projected starter for the entire year.
Yeah.
So that'll be new, that'll be interesting, and that'll be like a little bit different for the guys.
Yeah, with Brandon Jones, so the Dolphins played the Chiefs in the playoff game, and so there is quite a bit of tape of him on Travis Kelce, and things went pretty well. The difference, though, is that he's playing a bunch of man coverage against him, and when you get like a safety who's that big, who's like fast, you would think he'd be able to play man coverage. Now, again, it's Travis Kelce. It always goes better for Travis than you'd expect it to. But I think there's a difference between being in that defense where they're sending pressure, they're trying to get after Mahomes, and you just have one guy whose sole responsibility is cover Travis Kelce, versus building a defense and saying, like, hey, we can't just be blitzing, we can't just be playing man coverage. At some point, you have to go zone, and Travis is going to rip you apart.
Yeah, he does do best in his zones. Can we go man coverage, though? If you say Brandon Jones can lock up Travis Kelce, you put Pat on
probably Rashid
Rice if he's there, if he's not suspended.
Yeah, that's true. Second half of the season, yeah.
Oh, I think Hollywood Brown is a tough one.
That's the scary part.
That's the tough one.
But you almost bracket him.
Yeah.
Send 5 and bracket him.
We maybe could. I think it really depends on that last corner.
Yeah.
We have to have another corner that's
the thing
nice.
is, like, Levi Wallace, even if he's your best cornerback, he can't do that. Like, that's never been his game, and as he gets older, he's just not fast enough. Riley Moss it's tough to say fast enough to run with Hollywood Brown. Like, he might not be that fast, but he might be close enough that he can kind of get away with it. But again, you need him to actually be a good corner for that to work. So that'll be interesting. This is the kind of stuff that, like the Nuggets last night, they draft Deron Holmes. And you're like, why'd they do it? Well, obviously because that's their answer to beating the Timberwolves. They just need one more big guy they can go play. Because when you're a good team, you're worried about how to beat the other good teams. Like, we've got answers for just about everybody. This is the thorn in the side. We patch that. And that's where, like, the Broncos just aren't quite to that point yet where they can say, oh, if we add the Travis Kelce stopper, or if we, like, find one more guy who can cover Hollywood Brown, all of a sudden we can compete with them. But I do think that there's a chance that they kind of stumbled across that with Brandon Jones.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll rock with you.
Yeah, I'm curious. Yeah, we can start these real quick. So safeties, obviously Broncos, Brandon Jones, PJ Locke. Caden Stearns off the bench is, I guess, the one proven guy. You go to the Chiefs, and what do they have? They've got James Cook and Justin Reed, of course. Wow. Or Brian Cook. Sorry. James Cook's the running back. Brian Cook, Justin Reed. Having Justin Reed is probably the separator here. I think you've probably got to go Chiefs over Broncos.
Yeah, he's a good player, and he's a veteran, so.
Yep.
Yeah.
Also said that he thinks his career could be extended by the fact that they changed the kickoff rules. So, like, even when he gets to the point where he's not the greatest safety anymore, he can still kick well enough that, and then go tackle better than a kicker would, and just play a couple more years.
Not a bad plan.
Not a bad plan.
Especially if he can make some field goals too.
Yeah,
kickers get paid, man. You know what I'm
Kickers
saying?
get paid.
It's not a bad job to have.
Let's see. Hit the Raiders here. My computer hit the point where it's frustrated with all my charts.
Too many pop-ups from your activities.
Yes, the pop-ups from the activities. Trayvon Merrick, second-round pick in 2021, hasn't quite worked out. Brought in Marcus Epps from Philly. It's tough to put the Broncos in front, but I think you actually can, because I think that you've got the talent in Brandon Jones, and that's what you're worried about. Trayvon Merrick, like, highly drafted, super talented guy. Does he become a good safety? Brandon Jones can match that. PJ Locke proved last year he's a good player, and I think, although Marcus Epps is solid, I'll take the Broncos.
Yeah, I think I still need to see a full season for PJ. I think he's a great player, but just to say that he's better than a guy that has started in the NFL and has had success, it's tough to do.
Yeah.
Tough to do. But do I think that he will be better throughout the season? Absolutely, without a doubt.
Yeah, I think that's a good point too, because I feel the same way about Jaquan. It's like Jaquan comes in after the Dolphins game. He played well. But, I mean, we saw it with Damari Mathis the year before. Played really, really well in that second half of the season when he was a starter. Last year, first 4 games, I mean, it didn't go well, and that's why they made the change at cornerback. So, with all those young guys, especially guys who weren't high draft picks, as unfair as that is.
It's very
unfair, but
biased.
I know, but you see like a first-round rookie go out there and play really well. Like, you see Pat Surtain do it the first year, you're like, oh, yeah, we're good here. But you see like a PJ Locke do it, and you're like...
like sexist or racist draft position assist. Like, can't
I'm
do
gonna
that.
get canceled.
Can't hold it. You can't hold it against people where they were drafted.
Yeah, no, that's probably a good point with PJ though. Good news is they've got options behind. And the Chargers here. Alohi Gilman from Notre Dame. He was another guy from the draft pod that was fun. And then Derwin James, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Is Derwin James or Justin Reed the best safety in the AFC West?
Justin Reed.
Yeah?
Yeah. I think Derwin's good. I think he's similar to what's the guy?
Jamal Adams?
Yes.
Jamal Adams,
With
but like
limitations.
faster?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's crazy that you knew that because you must feel the same way.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I think Reed is probably the best safety in the league.
Yeah, I think that's fair. So then...
Not bad. Not the league, just the AFC West.
Yeah.
Not the league.
Wrong, Justin. Chiefs, number 1 then.
Mm-hmm.
Chargers, 2.
Mm-hmm.
Then Raiders or Broncos?
Raiders or Broncos?
We'll tie there. And we'll do the same thing. Secondary, overall secondary rankings. We can start Broncos versus Chiefs. Chiefs have a good corner. They've got a good safety. Broncos have a good corner.
Great corner.
A great corner, yeah, which is a difference.
And good safety.
And they got Jaquan. PJ can work out. I think this is a tough one.
Overall,
I'd probably lean Chiefs.
yeah.
But there's a case to be made for the Broncos. Like it almost might just be matchup dependent.
Yeah.
Like you play the Raiders, it's like, yeah, put Pat on Devontae and they're not gonna be able to do anything else. Like if you're the Chiefs, like Trent McDuffie, he's not that guy. Like then you still have other issues and you got to help and it's gonna open things up. So I think in some cases it makes sense. Again, like against the Texans, for example, like you still love like put Pat on Stephon Diggs, but there's still other threats to worry about. And the Chiefs just with the higher level of talent across the board might fare a little bit better there.
Yeah, I definitely feel like this is matchup based, but I would say the Chiefs have 2 potential Pro Bowlers, and we have 1. Even though Pat is going to be a Pro Bowler, All Pro, they do have 2 guys that could do it or are projected to do it depending on the season goes.
Yep, that's a good call. Raiders, I think, are clearly behind both those 2 teams.
Yeah.
I don't even know who their best player is in there. And then the Chargers.
They're kind of up there again.
Yeah.
Asante Samuel Jr.,
Like they
James.
will have 2 Pro Bowlers.
Yeah.
Barring injuries, we'll knock on wood, but they will have 2 Pro Bowlers.
Knock on wood for their injuries.
Fair, yeah.
No, I'm just playing. You don't want to see anybody hurt. Overall, I might have to put them with the Broncos too. Just being honest.
Yeah.
Not faking the funk.
Yeah, I think that's probably right. So Chiefs, Chargers, Broncos, Raiders.
Yeah.
Cool. Cool. We got like 10 minutes left. So I'm thinking let's hit overall offensive rankings, overall defense, and then if there's time, maybe a little special teams. Just real quick, just returners, because that'll be a fun one. Broncos win.
Yes.
Best offense in the AFC West. Who you got?
Oh, it's Chiefs.
Yeah.
Man, it's not even close.
I don't think so either.
I think they just have, as of right now, they have the best scheme for the players that they have, and they have been the most successful. I mean, they're back-to-back Super Bowl champions. I think if we put anybody above them right now, I think they'd just be lying. And I know they've had not their best year last year offensively, a lot of drops. They weren't really themselves, but I think overall they still have the best offense in the league.
Yep, I think you're right. Because again, you think like the Chargers have Justin Herbert. Like I think that they're going back to what he did at Oregon back when who was the head coach back? Mario Cristobal was the coach when it was just like build the offensive line, like run play action off of it. And I think that makes sense for him, and obviously it makes sense for Jim Harbaugh. But like as Brian Baldinger said on the show yesterday, the Chiefs have the better offensive line, and they have the better running back, and they have the better quarterback, and the Chargers receivers aren't any good either. Like, and tight end. So the Chiefs really beat the Chargers at every level of the offense. Like there isn't one spot where the Chargers win, which is kind of crazy. And I also think the Chargers are probably a pretty clear number 2. I don't think the Raiders or Broncos are all that as of today. Like you hope by the end of the year the Sean Payton offense is clicking, but as of now, I think Chargers is a clear 2.
Yeah, I think so too.
And then Broncos or Raiders is a tough one to me. Like Gardner Minshew versus Bo Nix is a tough question. I think Devontae Adams is probably the best player that either team has. Broncos have the running backs. Broncos have the offensive line.
Yeah.
I don't know. Which way do you go?
If you can't protect your quarterback, it's going to be tough.
True. Minshew thrives under pressure.
He does.
He might even prefer it.
And it's just offense for offense. Ooh. Maybe the Broncos, because I think we have a receiver that has the potential to be an all-pro guy with the right quarterback, but we also have, a handful of other guys that are really, really good, really talented. So for that, I would give it to the Broncos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I think you're right. Defenses. Start with the Chiefs. Went to the Super Bowl. Looked really good. It's because this kind of factors in the defensive coordinator too, like more than the other groups. And I think that they've got to be in front of the Broncos.
Yeah.
There's really no way around that.
I think the Chargers are last.
Yeah.
Based off of how they played last year.
The thing is, like, they have the upside. Like, when you look at Bosa and Mack and Derwin James and Asante Samuel, like, I don't buy that they're all going to be healthy or all be what they were. But there is a chance at the end of the year, this defense that they built this defense like 4 years ago, and it just never worked. Mostly because they can't stop the run, I guess.
Yeah,
but they got rid of Kenneth Murray, who was a part of the issue there. Maybe the linebackers play better, even though, I don't know. I guess that's probably the key. If Junior Colson pops, then all of a sudden they might have the pieces. But I agree. I think they're probably last.
Yeah, I think they're just
give up like 6 yards per carry.
Yeah, they've been bad for a few years now. And even though the Broncos had a bad start to the year, they had found a way to turn it around and become a pretty good group towards the end. Same thing with the Raiders. I think the Raiders, after they switched to Antonio Pierce, for the rest of the time was ranked the best defense in the NFL, which is it's kind of hard to say, but it's
crazy.
True. So I think both the Broncos and the Raiders would be above the Chiefs. But it's talking about, and I think the Broncos have more pieces to be a better defense right now.
Yeah.
So I would say, because of the second half of the season, team for team, the takeaways the Broncos created, the big plays they created on defense, the guys that are coming back to be starters, or a lot of the guys that created those, those big plays, I would say that the Broncos right now will be better than the Raiders, better than the Chargers, but haven't cracked that Chiefs barrier just yet.
Yep. I think that's probably right. Raiders are interesting too. Honestly, my big takeaway from this is just that the AFC West is in a really fun place right now. Like, it's a really fun division. Obviously, you have the Chiefs off doing the Chiefs things, but with Harbaugh going to the Chargers, like, they've got those pieces on defense where maybe you put them in the right situations, it clicks. The Raiders with Antonio Pierce, like you said, like, they played well. And you throw Gardner Minshew into that, and he seems like the perfect fit. Like, maybe not the perfect quarterback, but the perfect fit for an Antonio Pierce team, because that guy's, like, crazy. Because I'm not sure if we've talked about this on the podcast, but he was the guy my last year covering the Pac-12. He was the defensive coordinator at Arizona State during COVID. So actually it would have been my second to last year in the Pac-12. But he got fired because he was organizing all of the secret visits during COVID when all like direct contact was banned. And so he has like some shady stuff in his background. Like, it just makes him the perfect Raiders coach. And with his attitude, with Christian Wilkins, like with Maxx Crosby, like you bring in Jack Jones, like Gardner Minshew as like the quarterback of that team. Like, I don't think they're any good, and F them, but I do kind of like that they're leaning into being the Raiders for sure.
Yeah.
And obviously the Broncos with Sean Payton. Like, it's a really fun division for sure.
Yeah, it's going to be a crazy division. A lot of good coaching going on in this division.
Yeah.
It's kind of one of those divisions, like, you're either going to, the team that makes it out is either going to win the Super Bowl, or they're going to be so beaten up by having to play in this division that they won't be able to make it past the first round. It's going to be a fun division for a good amount of time. And I think the Broncos have our work cut out for us. I mean, the Chiefs have already been here. Like you said, the Chargers are on the rise. Don't think the Raiders are ever slouches, even though we hate them. I mean, they're not like
was it 8 in a row?
It's not a win. It's not just like a show up and win type game.
Exactly.
You mentioned 8 in a row. I didn't. But yeah, man, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna
Yeah.
be fun, like turning this thing around and getting back to the glory days.
All right. Real quick, I want to hit these returners. Marvin Mims, number 1.
Yes.
I don't.
Down.
I'm curious who's even going to return for some of these teams. Like, I guess the Chiefs. These guys say some sort of competition with Xavier Worthy, first round pick, obviously like 4.28 40 or whatever it was. Even better, I think. Kadarius Toney, who, if he catches it, he's dangerous. Mecole Hardman, another crazy fast guy. Louis Rees-Zammit, the rugby player who we talked about months ago about potentially signing, but he's like the bigger guy who also is fast. And then our old friend Montrell Washington. Like, that's a crazy group of returners. And I don't know who is going to wind up being the best, but I have a feeling they're going to find a way to make it work. Because I think they still have that same special teams coordinator, Rube, R-O-U-B, something like that. But he was a candidate for the Broncos head coaching job like 4 years ago. Toub, T-O-U-B, that's what it is. I don't know. I'm it's all random stuff, but I think that if anybody pushes the Broncos with Marvin Mims, the Chiefs are probably the team to do it.
Yeah, they have good guys. They don't have one all-star though. They have guys that are fast.
And even like Hollywood. What if they just decide to do it?
Yeah, but just because you're fast doesn't mean you're a good returner, I don't think.
Okay.
I think you still have to have the vision to return because it's a different animal than even playing like wide receiver. You got to be able to have the vision. You got to be able to set up your running lanes. And that's why I always say, like, for Marvin Mims, we have to see him be a good wide receiver. We think he can do it, but it is a different game from being a returner. So
Yeah.
I don't know if just because they're fast, they could be good returners.
Yeah, Chargers don't really have anybody who scares you. Darius Davis, I guess, is looking like the returner, but I mean, like, Lad McConkey, not crazy fast, but maybe he's able to make something happen. Brendan Rice, DJ Chark, not that he's ever returned. Lad
returned to Georgia, right?
I think he did.
Yeah.
So, but he's like punt returner,
Yeah,
I think.
punt returner, yeah.
Which
is different too. See,
it is, I know.
It's a different, like, yeah.
But like new kickoff rules, I'm not sure if that's. Some people have said it's more like a running back than actual returner. Because you have the blocks setting up right in front of you, and you're just reading, similar to like a zone run, like an outside zone run. So, I don't know. And then Vegas, they. I don't think they have anybody who stands out either.
No, my guy DeAndre just left the Raiders.
That's right.
Yeah.
Has he signed anywhere?
Yeah, he's with the Bears now.
That's a fun place to be. That's a fun place to be. Yeah, it looks like Raiders, Trey Tucker, Amir Abdullah. Returning, I think Broncos and Chiefs are clear 1 and 2.
Yeah. Amir's good. He's a good player.
Yeah.
But I think the Broncos are definitely 1 and 2.
All right. Do we have any super chats? No super chats? Do we have any good questions? Okay, we've got a minute to kill. Any thoughts about the whole exercise?
No, I thought it was fun.
Yeah.
I don't know if I love where we're at as a team. Like when you start thinking about the whole division, I think we definitely have like room to grow. But it's good. I feel like some of those other teams, you got Joey Bosa's and Khalil Mack's, where they're definitely on their way out. I think with us, most of our players are good or they're fresh.
Yeah.
So we have fresh legs in the building. So we're evaluating a lot of people. So the potential for us to get good quickly is there. You know, I think a lot of those other teams, you got to get rid of some old guys. You got to rebuild to start kind of getting where you need to be. I do feel like the Broncos, if young guys are able to pop, is a quicker turnaround than most people are kind of projecting right now.
I'm thinking I wish there was a bet for the Broncos to be undefeated in the preseason. That'd be one I could get on, because first of all, Sean's gonna play his starters, so like you're not just gonna get cooked right out of the gate. They have a lot of fun depth. Like you look like right now, Brandon Johnson, Jalen Virgil, Lil Jordan Humphrey. That's like your 7th, 8th, and 9th receiver. I like that. I like the back offensive line. I like Jarrett Stidham as a backup quarterback, or maybe Bo Nix in the preseason. I think I really like the depth. Who knows if any of them will become what we hope they become, but I think that's my big takeaway here.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right, that'll do it for today. We'll be back tomorrow, still without Zach, who hopefully is having fun in Mexico. But we will see you then.
We all silly like the mayor.